Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session of Structural Organization in Animals Theory Part 2. And today we are going to cover up the NCERT section 7.1 and 7.2.1. Disclaimer. So today's session learning objective is to understand the digestive system of frog, its structure and function. So we will focus upon the digestive system of frog. We will see how the digestion occurs in the digestive system and what are the different parts function, right? The second objective is to understand the circulatory system in frog and its function. Index. So we will study about frog and in frog anatomy, that is the 7.2.2 section. There will be the summary of today's lecture and there will be some NCERT based questions. After that, there will be some keynotes and some interesting question based on today's lecture, and that you are going to solve with your own. Okay. So let us start today's session. Okay. Structural organization in animals, frog. So today we will talk about the frog digestive system. So if we see the frog digestive system, so digestive system in frog starts from its mouth. It starts from its mouth. From mouth, the food comes to the buccal cavity. There is a cavity like things because there is an upper jaw and there is a lower jaw. In between the upper and the lower jaw, there is a cavity and that cavity is called as a buccal cavity. Now, the buccal cavity leads to the pharynx region. And from pharynx, there is a tube-like structure in which no digestion occur. That is called as esophagus. Now, this esophagus joins with a round pouch-like structure, right? That is called as stomach. That is the stomach. Next, the stomach leads to the intestine, and the intestine are the two types, small intestine and large intestine. Then there is a rectum part, and the rectum open to outside environment through an opening that is called as cloaca. Here, mind it, there is no anus. Instead of anus, there is cloaca. So this is a major difference between the digestive system of if you compare it with the human or any other organism with the frog, right? Okay. So let us start digestion in frog. And for that, we will study about the structure first. Structure of the digestive organ in frog. So first of all, we will discuss about the mouth and tongue. So what type of mouth and tongue it is? The first thing, sticky and muscular tongue for catching prey. It's a very, very unique thing that we see in the case of frog, that the tongue is highly musculature, and it is stretchable as well. Right? And it is sticky. Sticky means when it protrudes out its tongue to the outer environment and any insects comes and sit on that tongue, it gets stick to that. So that sticky it is, right? So this sticky and muscular tongue is helping for catching the prey. You can see this figure. So its tongue is quite a long, okay, highly musculature, so it can be flexible and it can make a round in the outer environment. So if you see, this is a small fly coming to sit on this or it can catch also. So once it gets sit on it or get in contact with the tongue, it gets stick to it. Next line, the tongue is highly specialized, featuring a sticky surface with a microscopic papillae and a special saliva that changes the viscosity to aid in prey capture, right? So they are having very minute microscopic papillae. This papillae provide the sticky nature to the surface of the tongue. And very important, special saliva that changes the viscosity to aid in prey capture. There is some liquid substances that changes the viscosity, and this is done for capturing of prey. Okay. Next, the frog tongue can be extended rapidly. It can be extended. It can protrude outside and wrapped around the prey and then retreat back. Right? So whenever they see the any fly in the outer environment, they take out their tongue, they make the movement in such a way that they can capture that tongue, they can capture the fly with the tongue, and they can retreat back inside their mouth. Okay. No teeth for chewing, teeth only to hold prey. The teeth is not as such that it can chew the food. It can only hold the prey, right? And so they swallow the food whole. They swallow the food, right? So this is a figure that is showing how the frog capture the food or capture the prey with the help of their tongue. So tongue is very, very important in the case of frog. Digestive system. Now we will talk about the next part, that is the pharynx. Pharynx is located just behind the tongue and serve as a passageway for both the food and air, right? So the pharynx is a region that that there is a joining of the food pipe and your respiratory tract at the pharynx region, right? So this is a passage, but at a time only one of the passage get open. If the passage for the food is open, at that time the passage for the respiration get closed, and when the passage for the respiration is open, at that time the passage for the food get closed. So such an opening is this pharynx region, and this is located just behind the tongue, right? So that is why it is mentioned here that this passageway is for both the food and air. That connects the mouth to the esophagus. This pharynx region, we are having the buccal cavity, right? Mouth leads to the buccal cavity, and this buccal cavity and esophagus, between the buccal cavity and esophagus, what is present? This pharynx region. So it is connecting the mouth buccal cavity to the esophagus. Aid in swallowing. So this pharynx region, how it is helping in the digestion of food? It helps in swallowing the food, because here the food is not chewed. Teeth is not such like that it can chew the food, right? It can just hold the food material, and their food material is what? They're insects. So once they hold the insects die, and then they swallow directly to it. And which organ is helping in the swallowing of the food? Pharynx region, right? Now it's part of the digestive, respiratory and auditory system. Now here you can see this pharynx is very, very important. Directly it is not used in the digestion process, because here nothing is digested. In this pharynx region there is no digestion, but further the digestion takes place in the stomach, and there should be food material. So which part is helping that the stomach should get filled with the food material? This pharynx, because it is helping in swallowing the food. So in that way it is a part of the digestive system. And I told you that this is also the part of the respiratory system. When you will study about the respiratory system, you will again study about this pharynx, because this is a common opening for your respiratory tract as well as your digestive tract, right? And it is also a part of your auditory system. Your eustachian tube comes and open to here. Eustachian tube, the tube like that reduces the pressure, okay? So that is also connected to this pharynx region. Okay, now we will talk about the next part of our digestive system, that is the esophagus. Short tube connecting the pharynx to the stomach. It is a very short tube, right? And in this region also there is no digestion occur in the pharynx region, and as well as your esophagus. Now this esophagus, this is a short tube that is present between the pharynx and the stomach part, right? Moves food through the peristalsis. So there is a movement of the food material. There is a movement of the food material in the esophagus region. How the food material is moved? Because this esophagus is made up of what type of muscles? Smooth muscles. And smooth muscles is involuntary. Involuntary means it is not in your control. So when the food material is present, from behind the food material, this muscle get contracted and it push the food forward direction. Okay, when the food get pushed, again just at the back of the bolus or the food which is present in the esophagus, again there is a contraction in the esophagus. Again this food moves forward. So in this way, this peristalsis is helping the movement of the food in the forward direction. So it can be asked in the examination, what type of movement is there in the digestive tract? The food is moved through the peristalsis movement, right? Now here in the figure also you can see this, there is an opening. Okay, this is called as the buccal cavity. Then there is this round folded bifid tongue is there, right? And this buccal cavity, this leads to the, and here you can see there is a lung. So this region is called as the pharynx, common opening, that is for the esophagus as well as for the lung, but at a time only one is open, right? When the food is moving towards this esophagus, at that time this part, the lung, the one that is attached to the lung, get closed, so that food do not goes to the lung region, right? So the food passes to the esophagus and later on it reaches to this stomach part, that is the stomach part. So this is the pharynx that you see in the case of frog. Next we will talk about the stomach. The stomach in frog. What type of stomach the frog is having? The frog stomach is a J-shaped. Okay, J-shaped organ located on the left side of the body cavity. So what is the position? They are talking about the position of the stomach of a frog. So frog is located to the left side of the body cavity and its shape is like J-shaped, right? The stomach is divided into two parts. Stomach is divided into two parts. The wider anterior cardiac stomach, it is called as anterior cardiac stomach because it is very close to the heart, and you all know the heart muscle is called as cardiac muscle, and that is why this particular part, the dilated part, okay, the larger anterior part or wider part, it is called as anterior cardiac stomach, and the lower one, the lower part of the stomach is quite narrow. It is quite narrower, and this is the posterior part, right? That is called as pyloric stomach. So two part of the stomach, cardiac stomach and pyloric stomach, right? It is a muscular organ. The stomach is highly musculature, so it can dilate. When it get filled with a lot of food material, it get dilated. And how it get dilated? Just because of its muscular nature, because it is highly muscularized organ. They secreted gastric juices, and you all know this gastric juices is very enzyme. Sorry, the gastric juice, what it is composed of? HCl and enzyme. Which enzyme? Which enzyme is present in the gastric juice? The enzyme is pepsinogen. No, it is not pepsin. It is pepsinogen. Okay. In the presence of HCl, it get converted to pepsin. It is released. It is released in the gastric juice in inactive form. It is inactive form, and that inactive form is called as pepsinogen. But in the presence of HCl, this pepsinogen get converted to pepsin, and that is helping in the process of digestion of protein. Okay, now they are also having a very like HCl is there, and this HCl is harmful to the stomach. So what is there to get protected the inner lining of the stomach? There is a secretion of mucus. There is a secretion of mucus. So mucus makes an inner lining over the stomach, and it helps or it protect the inner lining of the stomach because the HCl is there. It can degrade the cellular lining of the inner stomach, right? So this mucus is very important. It is part of the gastric juice, right? Okay, so HCl, enzyme and mucus. Begins protein digestion. So small part of the protein digestion occur here in the case of stomach only. And there is a mechanical breakdown of food. The food get mechanically broken here, right? And the food rest here. The food rest here for 2-3 hours, and it becomes a brown color paste here. Brown color paste, and that food is called as chyme. That is called as chyme. CHYME, chyme. Okay. Okay. So this is only the description of this structure. We will see all these things, how the digestion occur in the digestion part of this. Okay. Small intestine. Main site of digestion and absorption. So this is the main part of the digestive system where the digestion occur. What is that? That is the small intestine. So complete digestion of the food occur in this small intestine, and absorption of the food also occur in this part only. It can be divided into two parts, duodenum and ileum. Okay. But in the case of human, if you see the intestine, it is divided into three parts, duodenum, jejunum and ileum. But here in the case of frog, this is the difference. They are having two parts, duodenum and ileum. Receives secretion from the liver and pancreas. So you all know that there is one of the largest organ in the body, that is the liver, right? And liver is having a gallbladder attached to it. So whatever the secretions of the liver, that comes and rest in the or stored in this gallbladder. And from the gallbladder, there comes a tube that opens into the small intestine. At the same time, there is one more gland, and that is a mixed gland. The gland is called as mixed gland, and its name is pancreas. Why it is called as mixed gland? It is called as pancreas is called as mixed gland because it produces or it secreted enzyme as well as Hormone. So the gland which secreted enzyme is called as exocrine gland. That gland is called as exocrine gland. And the gland that secretes hormones, that is called as endocrine gland. Endocrine gland. And this pancreas is both, because it secreted enzyme as well as hormone, right? And that is why it is called as mixed gland, right? So that also open to this point only, small intestine, right? So that is why it is written here, receives secretions from the liver and pancreas, right? So here you can see in the diagram also, in the diagram, okay, this is the stomach, you can see, and this is the intestine, and here this is the gallbladder. It is a gallbladder, right? And from the gallbladder a tube comes and joins to this particular part, this part, small intestine. And there is a pancreas. The pancreas is not shown here, but there is a pancreas also, and that also joined to this particular point only, right? Now we will talk about the first part of the small intestine, that is called as duodenum. Anterior front part of the small intestine which curves forward to form a U-shaped with the stomach. Okay, so the U-shaped of the small intestine, okay, making it with the stomach. If you see the stomach, it is making a U-turn, right? So that part is called as duodenum. And in frogs, the duodenum part of the small intestine is absent. So this is a different feature that you compare, if you compare it with the human digestive system. So this is marked as one of the difference. There are many differences, but at the intestine point of view, this is marked as one of the difference. Okay, now we'll talk about the next part of the small intestine, that is called as ileum. The remaining longer and coiled portion of the small intestine, the ileum is the rest part, okay, the U-turn, the U-shaped, that is duodenum, and the rest of the highly coiled and the longer portion of the small intestine, that is called as ileum. So the small intestine is where the most of the chemical digestion and the nutrients absorption occur, right? So this is the part of the digestive tract where the maximum, or you can say all digestion occur here. Only the small part of the food get digested in the stomach, because there is a pepsin enzyme, pepsinogen converted to pepsin, and that helps in the digestion of protein there, right? But full protein is not digested here. Full protein is not digested in the stomach, right? Okay, so here you can see this U-turn is the duodenum part, and the rest coiled part of the intestine is called as ileum, that is called as ileum. Now digestive system, they are having the liver. This digestive system, the liver is an external organ that opens its secretion to the small intestine. So they produces what? What is produced inside the liver? Mucus. Mucus is produced inside the liver. The liver synthesizes bile juice. Very, very important. Bile juice. A fluid that aid in the digestion and absorption of fats, right? So what you see inside the stomach, what was the pH of the food material? It is acidic because HCl was secreted. But in the intestine, the food should become alkaline, because the enzymes that comes from the pancreas and also the secreted from the small intestine, they require alkaline medium. they require alkaline medium. So what is provided? What makes the food alkaline? The secretion from the liver, that is called as bile juice. And bile juice is not only providing the alkaline medium, making suitable for the enzyme that is secreted from the pancreas as well as the intestinal small intestine wall, but it is also helping in the digestion and absorption of fats. Digestion and absorption of fats. Can you think about, like, if the liver is not working, if the liver is not working, then what will happen? Hmm? If the liver is not working, then the digestion that takes place in the intestine will not be there. Why? Because because the food coming from the stomach, that is acidic, that is acidic, and your food will be acidic, right? But for the activation of the enzyme that is secreted from the pancreas as well as the internal lining of the intestine, they require alkaline pH. And what is the food? The food is acidic. And if liver is not working properly, then there will be no bile, and in that condition the food will not become alkaline, so there will be no digestion of food there in the intestinal part, right? Stores glycogen. The liver stores glycogen. Okay, if if there is if there is a lot of glucose is there in the body, so like in the plant, you must have heard about and you must have studied that extra glucose is converted to the starch. In the plant, the extra glucose is stored in the form of a starch, and in the animals, the extra glucose is stored in the form of glycogen. It is converted into the glycogen and it is stored in the liver. This stored glycogen is going to help this frog at the time of hibernation and estivation, because at that time it do not take any food, it just sleep, but they require some basic energy. And at that time this glycogen will be converted to the glucose, right? So this is a stored type of food material that we see in the case of frog. Okay, the liver stored glycogen which it can convert the glucose to regulate the blood sugar level, right? So this is also helping to regulate the blood sugar level. One more thing, if the liver is not working, yes, there will be no emulsification of fat, right? There is no emulsification of fat if the liver is not working properly, if there is no bile juice, right? So it means that this bile juice is very, very important for the emulsification of bread. What is the meaning of emulsification of fat? The fat's larger globules is broken down into smaller globules, and that globules are easy to digest. The surface area get increases, right? And the lipase enzyme can easily work on it, and it can help in digestion of food, right? Detoxification, it also removes the waste product from the blood. So liver is also helping in the detoxification. It removes the waste product from the blood. Protein synthesis, it also helps in the synthesis of protein. So liver is very, very important, and you can see this brown color, the largest organ in the frog body and even in the human body, right? So that is the liver. Gallbladder stores the concentrated bile. Okay, so whatever the bile juice is made in the liver, okay, it is transported where? It is transported to the gallbladder, and inside the gallbladder this bile juice is stored there. who releases bile into small intestine, and time to time when there is a food material present in the small intestine, this bile from the gallbladder is transported to the small intestine. Okay, the next organ that is helping in the process of digestion, that is the pancreas. So that produces the digestive enzymes, okay, and they secretes the hormones insulin and glucagon. So these are the two hormones that is secreted by the pancreas, and that is why it is secreting enzymes and it is also secreting the hormones. That is why it is called as mixed gland. And one very important thing, the enzyme always produced by the exocrine gland. And exocrine gland, how the secretion is reaches to the target organ via tube like structure. There is always a tube like structure from the exocrine gland. But the endocrine gland, they secrete their hormones directly into the blood. They do not require any tube like structures for the transport or make it reach to the target organ. They directly pour their secretion into the blood. So this insulin and glucagon from the pancreas secreted directly into the blood, but the exocrine part of the pancreas that secrete the enzyme, it reaches to the intestine via tube, a tube like structure joins from the pancreas to the small intestine, right? Now we will talk about the digestive process. The first is the ingestion. When you take the food material inside your mouth, that is the ingestion, right? So prey are captured by the sticky tongue. This tongue is helping in the capturing of the food material. And food swallowed whole. They do not crush it, chew it, masticate it. They do not do this. Why? Because the teeth of frog is not adapted for that, right? It is only adapted for holding the food, and its food is what? Insect, mostly the insects. So they swallow the insects whole, and for swallowing, which organ is helping? Pharynx. Stored and initial digestion. Storage and initial digestion. So food are stored in stomach for some time. Protein digestion begins there in the stomach part, because there is a secretion of the pepsin hormone. Mechanical breakdown occur here. So it can asked in the examination that where in the case of frog the mechanical breakdown food material occur. So it is not occurring inside the mouth, it is occurring inside the stomach. So this is very important point. Chemical digestion. So chemical digestion means it start in the small intestine. Majorly, bile aids fat digestion. From the liver part, the bile is added, so it is helping in the digestion of fat. Pancreatic enzymes break down the protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So all the different types of food material. Here you can see the food material can be in the form of carbohydrate. The insect's body exoskeleton is made up of chitin, and that is a type of carbohydrate, polysaccharide, right? So carbohydrate is there. There is a fat. There is a protein as well, right? So all the enzyme that is secreted from the pancreas going to help in the digestion of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Absorption. Nutrients get absorbed through the small intestine wall. The small intestine wall is having brush-like border thing that is called as villi. And these villi, they can absorb the digested food materials. So The digested food material enters where? It directly enters through the bloodstream, the assimilation process, right? So after that, egestion, undigested. Once it get digested, there is a undigested material that passes through the large intestine. Yes, that is the villi, that is increases the surface area, right? It increases the surface area, and its capillaries, the blood capillaries, lacteals are present inside these villi. So it is helping in the absorption process, right? Okay, coming to the egestion process, undigested material or undigested food material that passes through the large intestine. So this process, what happened here in the large intestine, water are reabsorbed. Whatever the water is there, it get reabsorbed. And the waste material is expelled out from the body through a region that is called as cloaca. Cloaca. So this is again one of the feature that you see very different from the human. Human, the undigested food material is taken out from the anus. The opening, the second opening, that is called as anus. But here it is called as cloaca. Now we will talk about the respiratory system. Respiratory system in the case of frog. So frog have a unique respiratory system that combines multiple method of gas exchange. There is not one single method of respiration we see in the case of frog. There are multiple method of gas exchange. And what are that? Let us see that. The first one, method of respiration, the first one is the cutaneous respiration. Cutaneous respiration. Wherever the word cutaneous comes, okay, it means skin, means the respiration process that involves the skin. So moist, the skin of the frog, whenever you see the frog, you will see that it is always moist. It is never dry. The skin is always moist. Permeable skin allows the gaseous exchange, and the skin is very, very thin, permeable. So it can take the gases from the air. Oxygen it can take, and carbon dioxide it can release out. Rich blood supply beneath the skin. And how this oxygen enter to this skin? Because just below the skin, there is a rich blood supply. Okay, rich blood supply, and that is helping in the process of gaseous exchange. So this is particularly important when they are submerged in water or during the period of hibernation or estivation, right? When the frog is totally inside the water, submerged inside the water, means it is totally inside the water. So at that time, how it is getting the oxygen for the process of respiration? At that time, the skin can take the dissolved oxygen that is present in the water. The dissolved oxygen that is present in the water. So through skin, it can take some amount of the oxygen. And when it is doing the process of hibernation and estivation, hibernation means winter sleep and estivation means summer sleep. And you all know that in these two seasons, the frogs are not very active. They go for sleep. And the reason I told you that in this season, the food material is not available properly. Okay, the scarcity of food, the scarcity of water as well, and the third point, temperature, because they are cold-blooded animals, poikilotherms, so they cannot regulate the body temperature. So the temperature of the body will be according to the outer environment. And you all know that in the case of summer, the temperature is so high, right? And to maintain their body temperature, they need a lot of energy. And how they will get the energy if the food is not available? So what they do? They go for sleep. I will not work in this season. I will go for sleep. I will take rest. I will reduce my metabolic activities. But you need to respire to live, to be alive. From where they get this oxygen? Skin is helping at that time, both for the hibernation as well as the estivation. At that time, they makes the skin always moist. Okay, the skin is always moist, and with the help of this moist skin, they can take the oxygen. So during the cutaneous respiration, see, metabolic rate is very low. Metabolic rate is very, very low. Accounts for 30% of oxygen intake. Okay, only 30% of oxygen they require, and more effective in water and cool temperature. So this type of respiration, basically you see when they are in the water, and when the temperature is very cool, means they go for the hibernation or the estivation as well. Now here you can see, this is a figure of a tadpole. A tadpole, they are having gills. They are having gills, and they are having very thin skin. If you see the skin of this tadpole, it is very thin, right? So they can take the oxygen, and they can take out carbon dioxide from the skin. So skin as well as gills are there for the respiration process. When the frog is in the form of larva, that is called as tadpole. But once it changes to the adult frog, the gills disappear, the tail disappear, right? So these are the changes, and this is called as metamorphosis. We will study in detail later on, but here you just remember, at when the frog is in the form of tadpole, their skin is and their gills are helping in the process of respiration. Now lungs, because when the frog is in adult stage, they, instead of gills, what they are having? They are having lungs. So they are simple bag-like lungs with an inner fold. The lungs is like a bag structure, and it is used primarily when the frog is on the land. The frog is on the land. So at that time, okay, they respire with the help of lungs. Positive pressure, breathing mechanism. Okay, this is the way they breathe, like we also breathe in the same way. Okay, the process involves the frog involves the lowering of the floor of its mouth, causing the throat to expand and drawing air into the buccal cavity through the nostrils. So this is the way that the frog take the oxygen inside, or take the air inside their lungs region. And the nostril that then closes, and the floor of the mouth is raised, forcing the air into the lungs, right? So when the nostril is closed, the floor of the mouth is raised, and at that time, whatever the air is there, it passes into the lungs. Positive pressure is when your lung is having less air and outer environment is having more air. So what will happen? The air moves from higher pressure to the lower pressure, right? So this is a positive pressure, and due to this positive pressure only, the air is moving inside our lungs. The lungs, being a pair of elongated sac-like structure, facilitate gas exchange between the air and the blood. So once the air reaches inside the lung, there is a lot of blood capillaries running over the lungs, and there exchange of gases occur, right? So here you can see nostril open, nose is open, external nostril, the air is moving downward. Here you can see the buccal cavity, and it is reaches once it's swallowed. When the nostril get closed, okay, you can see the air passes into the lung region. Okay, so here you can see the lower part of the your buccal cavity is raised here. When it is raised, all the air that is present in the mouth passes to the lungs. Buccopharyngeal respiration. Gas exchange through the mouth cavity lining. Mouth cavity lining. From there also the exchange of gases takes place. Supplementary method. This is not the first method of respiration. This is the supplementary method. And buccopharyngeal respiration is used especially when the frog is floating on the water or resting on the land. When it is resting on the land, so at that time it can open their mouth, and from the mouth inner lining the oxygen can get enter inside the body, right? The lining of this cavity is well suited for the gas exchange, allowing the oxygen to be absorbed and carbon dioxide to be released. So this is very important. Buccopharyngeal, it is occurring when the frog is floating on the surface of the water, okay, and when it is resting on the land, at that time also they are following this buccopharyngeal respiration. Breathing mechanism. The floor of the buccal cavity is lower, drawing air through the nostril. When the buccal cavity is lower down, so at that time the nostril is open and the air comes from the nostril to the mouth. So, and when nostril close, what happened? The floor of the buccal cavity raises, forcing the air that is present in the buccal cavity towards the lung. So external nares again open and the process repeats. So in this way, the respiration occurring inside the frog. This is the breathing mechanism. Now, summary. Frogs have a simple digestive system starting with the mouth where the tongue catches prey. Now you all know that how the tongue of this frog is important, highly musculature, sticky in nature, and it is very long. So it can come out from the mouth and capture the food material. Food passes through the esophagus to the stomach for the chemical digestion, then small intestine for the nutrient absorption, and finally large intestine for water reabsorption. For respiratory system uses both the lungs and skin. Okay, the skin respiration is called as cutaneous respiration, and the respiration in which the lung is involved, that is called as pulmonary respiration. The lung is called as pulmonary respiration. And there is one more type of respiration, buccopharyngeal respiration. So 3 different types of respiration you see in the case of frog, right? The lungs are the simple sac-like structure for breathing air. Moist skin allows the oxygen absorption and the carbon dioxide release. So more skin is also actively working as a respiratory organ. And they also use the buccal pumping, forcing air into the lung by closing the nostril and contracting the throat muscle. So this is the part of the pulmonary type of respiration. Now there will be some NCERT based questions. So the first question is here. Question number 1. What are the 4 basic tissue types found in animals and how do they contribute to the formation of organs? Let us see the answer. This was our question. The four basic types of tissues in animals are epithelial, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue, how it is helping in the formation of organ, forms the lining of the body cavity and surfaces. Every organ lining is made up of this epithelial tissue, right? And it can be protective. It can be protective. Like the skin, our skin is also made up of the epithelial tissue. And what is the function of our skin? It is providing protection and involved in the absorption as well as the secretion. Connective tissue. What is the function of connective tissue then? Provides support and connects the different parts of the body. Example include blood, bone, and cartilage. So now you know how the bones are important for our body. It is making a whole system, skeletal system. And through this skeletal system, the muscles can join and we are having proper posture and shape of the body. Not only that, the joints are there in our skeletal system that is helping in the locomotion process. Cartilage, many of our organs are made up of cartilage. Your external ear, your nose tip, every end of the bones are having the cartilage. So cartilage is very, very important. Another very important thing, blood, fluid vascular system, that is also a type of connective tissue. So now you can see how the connective tissue is helping in our body. Next, muscular tissue. This tissue is responsible for the movement. We are having the muscles, right? And we are having three different types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscle is only and only present in the heart, whereas the smooth muscles, they are present in our internal organ, where the involuntary action is there. No involvement of our will, right? For example, our alimentary canal whole, it is made up of smooth muscles, right? There are three types: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscle. This we have discussed. Now, nervous tissue, one more tissue. This tissue transmits the information through the electrical and chemical signals. Between the two neurons, there is a neurotransmitter that transmits the message in the form of chemical signal. But in the neuron, the message is transmitted in the form of electrical signal. So this tissue, nervous tissue, are taking advantage of this electrical as well as the chemical signals to transmit any message via nervous tissue. It is found in the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. These are the different parts of our nervous system. Brain is a part of nervous system, spinal cord is a part of nervous system, and nerves are also the part of that, right? So these tissue organized in a specific proportion and pattern that forms the organ like stomach, lungs, heart, and kidneys. And each tissue has a unique structure and function, and their coordinated action is essential for organ function. Next question. What are the different features about the digestive system of frog? Let us see the answer. Frog digestive system differ from the human primarily in its shorter, simpler structure, lack of salivary gland. We didn't discuss about the salivary gland. There is no digestion in the mouth. In the case of human, the digestion starts in the mouth only because we are having the salivary gland. We are having the salivary amylase enzyme in our mouth. But here, they do not have salivary glands. So, and the presence of cloaca. Humans are having anus, whereas the frog second opening. The first opening is the mouth and the second opening is the cloaca. Frogs are the carnivores with a shorter alimentary canal suited for eating insects. And this is the reason they do not have duodenum. They do not have duodenum. Where if you compare it with the human intestine, we are having the three parts: duodenum, and ileum, right? Yes, we do have teeth to break down the food material, but the frogs are not having. Unlike human, frogs lack salivary glands and instead use their sticky projectile tongue to catch the food. Additionally, frogs have cloaca, single opening for both the digestive and urine waste, whereas the human have separate anus and urinary opening. We are having the two opening, one for the ejection of the undigested food material and one for the removal of the liquid nitrogenous waste material, that is the urine, right? But in the case of frog, both the things are eliminated out from the body through cloaca. This is a major difference between the human and the frog. Keynotes: frogs have no teeth on their lower jaw, and frog have the vomerine teeth on the roof of their mouth, but that is not used for the they are not used for the chewing the food. The frog's stomach can expand greatly and to accommodate large meals. Frogs can breathe through their skin, that is called as cutaneous respiration. Frog skin provide various compounds including the antibiotics and toxins, right? And frog must keep their skin moist to facilitate the oxygen absorption. So there will be some interesting questions that you are going to solve. How does the digestive system of a frog differ from that of the human, and what adaptations allow the frogs to thrive on their insect-based diet? Second, explain the significance of the cloaca in the frog's digestive process, considering its role in the excretion and reproduction. So this is all about today's session, but we will have our DPP. So here comes the first question. Which of the following options are incorrect regarding the compound epithelium? The first, let us see the statement first. Multi-layered with no stretchability. Second, cover the moist surface of the buccal cavity and the pharynx. Third, provide protection against the chemical and mechanical stress. And fourth, they play a vital role in secretion and absorption. So, which of the following is incorrect regarding the compound epithelium? Very important. They are talking about the compound epithelium. Okay. So, what is the incorrect? They play a vital role in secretion and absorption. Compound epithelium is not involved in the process of secretion or absorption, right? Very important question. They are not playing any role in the secretion and absorption. So we will save this and move to our next question. The tissue whose cells act like a diffusion boundary is R. Diffusion, very important. The diffusion is occurring through which type of epithelium? First, simple cuboidal epithelium. Second, simple columnar epithelium. Third, simple squamous epithelium. Or fourth, all of the above. Okay. So the one that is very thin, is the simple squamous epithelium. They are like the tiles on the floor, right? They are flattened. So their surface is very, very thin, right? So simple squamous epithelium is the correct answer. We will save and move to the next one. Match the column 1 with the column 2. Let us see what is there in the column 1. A, bipolar neuron. B, multipolar neuron. C, pseudo-unipolar neuron. And D, Schwann cells. And in case of column 2, what are there? 1, cerebral cortex. Second, axon of neuron. Third, retina of eye. And fourth, spinal cord. So, if you see bipolar neuron, that you see in the case of retina of eye, that are found in the retina of eye. Multipolar neuron, they are present in the cerebral cortex region. And pseudo-unipolar neuron, they are present in the spinal cord. And Schwann cells, they are present on the axon of the neuron. So which is the correct match? A3, B1, C4 and D2, right? So we will match this and opt it. Common feature of the striated and the faintly striated cardiac muscles are: A. Presence of troponin. B. Use of calcium for the muscular contraction. C. Vascularity. D. Gap junction. And E. Control by the visceral nervous system. So for this striated cardiac muscle, what is required? There is a required of troponin. This protein is very, very important. Troponin. Second, there is a use of calcium ion. Without calcium ion, there will be no muscle contraction. There will be no muscle contraction, right? From the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum, here it is called as sarcoplasmic reticulum in the case of muscles. So that take out a lot of calcium. So calcium is there, right? And also the vascularity. These are the three different points. Gap junction is not related to that, and the control of visceral nervous system, this is also not related in the cardiac muscles, right? So our correct answer is ABC, the one which is having ABC, this C1. C1 is having the ABC. Last question. Efferent nerve fibers carry impulses from. It carry impulses from where? A. First, effector organ to the CNS. Second, receptor to the CNS. Third, CNS to the receptors. And CNS to the muscles. So they are talking about the efferent nerve fiber. It is always from the receptor to the CNS. Receptor to the CNS, right? So receptor to the CNS, this is the correct answer. We will save it, submit the test and see the result. Okay, yes, or all the answers are correct. So this is all about today's session. Thank you very much for your cooperation and listening.